When you're working in Excel, one of the most commonly used formula types is the if statement. The if statement basically means if this happens, then do this. We're going to use an example here of doing residual volume calculations from lungs. So residual volume meaning how much air is left in the lung after you've breathed out as much air as you possibly can get out. And so the calculations, or the estimate calculations that I have displayed here, so this is from a lab write-up where we're doing hydrostatic weighing or underwater weighing to do body composition. So you need to know how much air is left in the lungs after they've blown out all their air, so you can factor that into the body fat calculations. So anyways, these calculations, as you can see, are different if you are a male or a female. So here we have a number of subjects' data. We have a mixture of men and women in this, and we have their forced vital capacity, which is the number that goes into these formulas. So in order to calculate residual volume, we could sort this data by males and females, and then type in different formulas depending on if they're male or female. But if we have lots and lots of data, and there are just certain situations where that's not as easy or feasible as what it would be here. So let's just show you how to do an if statement in order to take care of this. So all formulas, including if statements, start with equal sign. So type in equal sign, and then start typing the word if, so if, and it's going to bring up the different formulas that they think you're looking for. So we could just double click this, or we can just do an open parentheses, and it knows now that we're in an if statement. So when doing this, underneath the cell, you're going to see the different parts of the if statement. So first being the logic test, meaning if this happens, what do we do? So the if this happens is the logic test. So we'll say if this person is a male, so when we're typing in words, we have to put those in quotation marks so it knows they're words, not numbers. So quotation male, end quotation. So if it's a male, then you put a comma so it knows. Notice now we're no longer on the logic test, we're on what happens if the logic test is true. So if they are a male, what do we do? So what do we do is we put in this formula. So force vital capacity, so here's force vital capacity, times, and so I'm looking at this formula right here again, times 0.24. So typed, clicked on force vital capacity times 0.24. So then we type in another comma so it knows we're done with what happens if the statement is true. All right, so now what happens if the statement is false? So for now, let's just have it put in something random. So we'll just type in quotations, statement was false, end quotation, and we need to end the if statement with an end parenthesis, and then we can hit enter. And so you can see that it did the calculation for this person because it was a male. So let's go ahead and copy this down. So I'm just going to click on the cell and double click this little box in the bottom right hand corner. And it goes to all of these cells where we have, or it goes to the length of the cells where we have data. All right, so notice it worked for all the men. It did not work for the females. All right, so now we need to alter this if statement so it'll work for men and women. All right, so let's go and alter this. So what we can do is essentially a compound if statement. So we can add if statements within if statements. All right, so the easiest way to do this is to go and edit the what happens if it was false portion of the if statement. So we're going to get rid of this for now. All right, so we're back to what we were before we put in what happens if the if statement's false. And so we're going to add another if statement. So in other words, if they are not male, perform the second if statement. So if, open parenthesis to make another if statement. And so we're going to do the same thing again. It's just going to be for female this time. So click on the same cell. If that cell equals, and then we're going to do a in quotations female. So open quotation female close quotation. So if they are female, now let's end the logic test for this if statement. What are we going to do? So we're going to type in this formula. So if they are female, multiply the force vital capacity, so I'm going to click here, by 0.28. Okay, so multiply that by 0.28, and then that is the end of what happens if it's true. So again, if they are female, do this. So end that. So now it's asking, okay, if it's false, what do we do? All right, so again, let's put in, let's actually this time, let's just say sex not entered. And put that inside of quotation marks. And because we have two different statements here, notice how this last parenthesis is not black, it's red. So that means we're not on the, we haven't typed in enough parentheses, so we'll just add another parenthesis there and see that one's black. Because we have two if statements, we need to have an open and close parenthesis for both if statements. That's the reason why we needed a second one there, so we can close the second if statement. But if you would have just hit enter, and actually let's just do that. So I'm going to get rid of that parenthesis there. I'm going to hit enter. It's gonna Excel is going to pop up and say there's a typo. Usually if it's just forgetting a parenthesis at the end, it's going to be able to find that, and so it's asking if I want to accept the correction of adding that second parenthesis, and you can see there's two parentheses here, and I'm just going to hit yes. All right, so let's copy this formula down by just double clicking the box again, and notice all the subject participants where we have female in are now calculated correctly as well. And so again, we calculated males one way and females the other way, which is the reason why we wanted to use an if statement here. Notice number 19 here, we did not have their sex listed. This could have been a typo, somebody could have deleted by accident, somebody didn't enter it by accident, whatever it is. And so because I put at the end here, sex not entered, it would put those words in there, so that's why that's listed there. But let's say we looked up who subject 19 was and found out that they were male, and so we wanted to enter male here. Notice that when I enter male, this is going to all of a sudden be calculated. So male, and now we have the data being calculated there because that first if statement, whether they're a male or not, is now true. And so it's going to use that first argument, that first true argument. So that's how to use if statements in Excel.